I'm glad you asked about the workout part of it, because Cris brought this up yesterday, and it was an aspect I hadn't really even thought about much, because I don't think, much like certain actors don't really audition for roles, they get offered roles and they pick the ones they want. I think Colin Kaepernick's moved past the part of his career where he has to work out for teams. But Cris brought up the point, like, can we at least get him to a workout?
Yes.
Every team brings in multiple guys at different positions of need every single Monday or Tuesday. Can Colin at least get in for a workout?
And let me just stop you for a second. Tell people, what is the workout for? Is it to see how fit you are? Is it to see if you fit into a system? Or is it to see if mentally that team is a good fit for you?
Well, usually, and Cris, tell me if I'm wrong, usually a team says, okay, we have a wide receiver banged up. This guy, we think we're not getting enough performance out of our secondary. We have a list. Let's bring in these 5 guys, and maybe we sign none of them. At most, we sign one of them. We want to see with our eyes if any of these guys are an improvement on the field over what we currently have.
Right. And if you were going to make a decision on them after working them out and seeing some of the other things too, checking all the boxes, then you could immediately sign them. Right. But a workout is critical.
And so for the Titans, obviously, the situation is they don't know if Marcus Mariota is going to be active this week. They have elevated Matt Castle, but if Mariota is not active, they need a backup quarterback, because Matt Castle has a history of injuries and a much more elongated history of just horrific play. So they need to have someone else that can play the position. And when I see these names, Brandon Weeden, Matt McGloin, my friend, so I apologize, TJ Yates, and I'm buddies with TJ, but he's not good. He knows he's not good. He knows he's TJ Yates.
Okay.
He won't take it the wrong way. And Matt Barkley. And I've also been told certain teams won't bring Cap in because he doesn't fit the system they run, but the Titans run his system. I just throw my pen up in the air and I say, okay, like, we've now moved the goalpost so far to where it's like, well, I mean, is Cap even good enough to try out? Like, do we know Colin Kaepernick actually ever played football? Maybe that's a myth. Maybe Colin Kaepernick, as it turns out, was a baseball player this whole time. It's just nonsense. And I look at the Titans, and I say they got 2 pretty good running backs. They've spent a good amount of money on that defense. They're in a pretty weak division, even though everyone this week is very excited about the Houston Texans. And the Tennessee Titans are flatly putting some type of non-football agenda ahead of putting the best possible team on the field. And if I were a Titans fan, and thank goodness I am not, that would offend me to my core.
Another thing that, Nick, that you mentioned, for those who don't think Cap would fit in, like, this is one of the worst teams where the quarterback would be injured. Now, I wish he had more of a long-term injury. Then I think we could make a stronger case, because he's day-to-day with a hamstring, with a quarterback who's a dual threat.
And I know what you mean. I just wanted so people don't kill you for it. You don't wish he had a long-term injury. If he had a longer-term injury, this would more apply. You're not wishing Mariota to be injured. I don't want people to kill you.
Of course
Go
not.
ahead.
He's got a hamstring injury. It's day-to-day. Could be week-to-week. It's a little tricky with quarterbacks because that's not an injury that most quarterbacks have. It's more of an explosive thing, right, and skilled guys get it more so than quarterbacks. I see what Tennessee is doing, though. I mean, they're removing it from the equation because I think they should have brought Cap in with all these other guys because it makes it easier. It's harder if you bring in Cap by himself, and then if you don't sign him, then you can still be criticized. But if you bring him in with 4 or 5 other guys, you're like, wow, we worked them out. No one else is there. They can make the case that, these other guys worked out more. At least they have a legitimate excuse.
And I interrupted you. Why are the Titans such a bad team to have their quarterback go down?
Because they can't make the excuse that the system, because they're one of the top 3 or 4 teams as far as read option. They have a quarterback that is a very good athlete. He's also trying to develop into a pocket passer, but where he is right now, he's where Cap was.
Yeah.
Actually, Cap was the original version of this that teams are now trying to copycat and see how they can build on what Cap did.
I remember, and then I'll let you go, Jenna. I just want to remind people, when Marcus Mariota was going through the draft process, it was before Cap. Forget the kneeling, because I think everyone understands he has deteriorated somewhat as a player from his peak. He is not as good as he was under Jim Harbaugh. I'm not making that argument. I'm not making the argument Cap's still a top 10 quarterback. But when Mariota was coming into the league, some of the draftnik commentary was his draft status is being boosted because people have seen this style succeed with Colin Kaepernick. That was the comparison people were making. We have seen this style go to a Super Bowl because in years past, people were afraid of that type of quarterback, thinking that won't work on this level. If Cap didn't exist, I don't know if Mariota's a top 3 pick, even if his skill set's the exact same.
No, I was just going to say, echoing what you said, not only does he fit the system, Colin Kaepernick is the system. If there was a team that he could come in, this would be the team and this would be the situation. I agree with your point, but then the logical next question becomes, if he is not brought in for a situation like this, what has to happen for him to be an option? What has to happen for him to be brought in? Because at the beginning of the season, we said, well, it has to happen here. Well, if it doesn't happen here, well, it's going to definitely happen here. And if it doesn't happen there, well, it has to be the system. And if it's not the system, it's got to be someone who, with the mobile quarterback or this. We went through everything already. So I'm curious now, is there nothing left at this point? Is he not going to get signed, or is there any situation by which you can see a team bring him in?
I still hold out hope that he gets signed. But there are situations that aren't the best fit for him. I understand that. That argument that we run a system that we feel like Cap is not the best, I understand that. Tennessee is not a team that can say that.
That's his system.
Tennessee, and you were talking before the meeting, Tennessee might particularly forget the football fit. The city fit and the way people have been reacting to some of their players might be but why some of the off-the-field stuff is particularly bad for him there.
Yeah, Megan Lindsay sang the national anthem, took a knee, received multiple death threats. Delaney Walker, tight end, great guy, unbelievable. He took a knee for the national anthem. He's gotten death threats. Now, there's people that have booed the players in other cities. There's people that have even burned jerseys. But to make a death threat? Now, this is what's going on. So you have to think, wow, was that put in consideration when they decided not to buy him a plane ticket or put him in a hotel and maybe buy him a couple meals, because that's all it cost?
And I want to bring up something that people, and it amazes me, the logical pretzels people twist themselves into on this one. Forget the fact that I had people in my mentions yesterday saying, this is a direct quote, but Brandon Weeden throws such a pretty pass. Like,
yeah, to the other team.
Yeah, I mean, what are you talking about? I had people in my mentions yesterday defending Matt Castle as if over the last 4 years, he hasn't been one of the worst, if not the worst quarterback, other than Blake Bortles, to get significant starts. So, but set that part aside.
If Matt Castle doesn't get drafted by New England, if he doesn't get that little bit of, if he doesn't get the Bill Belichick stamp, he is not in pro football.
And that
he
stamp,
did not even start in college.
Cece, and I know you don't go out to the clubs much anymore, but sometimes you get that stamp on your wrist, and then if you don't wash your hands really well, it just slowly fades over the next few days. That Bill Belichick stamp faded off years and years ago. But I just want to make one point on this. Set aside how good these or bad these other players are. People somehow still believe that, well, I mean, you were able to sign Brandon Weeden for a league minimum salary. Cap's not accepting that. Who in your life has no job opportunities and is saying, you know what, had no job opportunities for 9 months,
right,
and their answer to $700,000 a year is, no, I'm holding out for $5 million.
But you guys
like
said
that doesn't exist.
If there are teams receiving death threats,
no, the players,
but those are essentially the teams. Why would an owner, and I understand what's happening with Cap, and I sympathize with him not playing football, that I do. But why would an owner want to take that chance and make it even? I know you don't like the word of distraction, whatever word you want to use. Why would you want to bring that?
Because we've seen the NFL do it for guys that actually did wrong.
But no one that got death threats.
Jenna, hold on a second. You don't think teams got angry letters about Greg Hardy? You don't think teams got angry letters about Leonard Little? You don't think teams...
And they don't want to do it again.
No, but...
They don't want to go through it again.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's a similar situation.
So
You're right,
first
Nick.
of all, Cap said that he would be standing during the national anthem. So he would be standing. They have players that are kneeling that are currently on the roster being paid.
But the proverbial damage, if you will, or whatever you want to call it, fallout, has already been done. What comes with it has already been done. I understand that.
Let's just keep making excuses.
The national media, I understand.
Let me tell you what you're promising your season ticket holders. I'm going to put a professional freaking football team out there for you to see. All right? And if you are bringing in Brandon Wheaton, if you are bringing in Matt Barkley, come on, you are straight tripping if you think Colin Kaepernick is not better. These guys have never been good in the NFL.
The owners don't want to take a chance on bringing this kind of distraction onto their team.
I am not
agreeing with that.
I know you're not.
Exactly
and I'm not. I'm raising my voice at the frustration of the situation, not with you. If the league had made it clear we are not tolerating, quote, distractions for any reason, I would have less of an issue with this. But when teams clearly are, I do not believe they are purely weighing distraction. I believe you have owners who disagree with his cause, and more so than they disagree with domestic violence, more so than they disagree with drunk driving, and saying, you know what, because when they sign those players, the answer's always been, yeah, it'll be noisy for a few weeks, but if we win, no one will care. And the answer with Cap is, I don't care if we'd win with him. I don't want him on my team. And you did say one thing I really disagree with, though, which is we thought, well, eventually he'd get signed. The moment people started making the moment people said, wait for the draft, wait for free agency. Once those two things passed, other people might have been waiting for other things. I didn't need to. It was to me, the proof was out there. This guy will never play professional football. I know, Nick, I was.
Because a lot of people thought, well, someone will go down. They will need a backup. They'll need some situation. There are a lot of people that still think there's got to be some situation.
I mean, I hope I'm wrong. I say this with respect. I think those people it's wishful thinking. Because if the Titans would rather run out Matt Castle and Brandon Wheaton when Marcus Mariota is their guy, then there's not a better fit. There's not a team that's...
Agreed. But we don't have to all be confused about what's happening here, I guess is what I'm saying. We know exactly what's happening.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First. Or go watch a few segments from some of our other great shows on FS1.